All right. Okay, so we're May 6th, 2010, out here with Dick Bodin, and what do we got in the background here, Dick?
The old Houghton Schoolhouse, built about the turn of the century.
This is the school that you and your father and your brother and anybody else, every kid that lived in the block, or I imagine
Everybody in
attended.
the town of Bayview.
Everybody in the town of Bayview. Sounds
When I
pretty-
graduated, there were 3 seniors.
Mhm.
And so that would put the school at about 24 kids.
Okay.
Upstairs was a town hall.
Okay.
Downstairs was a school.
Okay. So it served dual purposes then. Do you remember your teachers back in that day? Do you?
Oh yeah, Mrs. Hartley,
Hartley.
Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Jaskowski, Mr. Howard Hardy. Yeah, now you're getting getting it more difficult.
No tricky questions, we promised you. But
So when was this school built, do you think? Do you
I think
remember?
it was the turn of the century because my father was born in 1897 and he went here. So if he was 6 years old, 1903, the school had to have been here.
you must have been born in what, 1924 somewhere?
Right.
24 you were born. And you were here in the early 30s then.
I would have been on this property all my life.
Yeah, but I mean attending this
Yeah,
school
yeah.
at that point in time.
At one point, I was paid $3 a month to haul water to the school. Yeah, that was big money.
Yeah, it was. It was real big money. If it's kind of hard to get into there now, but what was a day like in the old school when you were a kid? I mean, take me back to when you were like in second, third, fourth grade. What was it like?
Bobby, didn't you go to a country school?
Never did. No.
All private, all separate grades?
No, never did.
All 8 grades were in one room. And I think it was a great advantage because the younger kids were always listening to the older kids. And I think they learned much better, much quicker. So,
They used the older kids to be part of the teaching process. So not only did the younger kids learn, but the other older kids got to be good communicators.
well, that could be true.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to the other grades as a youngster
I want you
and
to just
enjoying that.
close your eyes a little bit. When you're walking into that room, what did you see? What do you see as a kid back in that period in time?
To the right, a great big furnace with a big cowling around it. It was really a wood and coal burning stove. In the wintertime, the ink bottles were frozen in our desk. We had to put our ink bottles around that stove to thaw them out. Sometimes we had to have blocks of wood on the floor to keep our feet warm or to keep them from getting really cold. Kids were well behaved. I think today, if a youngster brought a knife into school, he'd be expelled. There wasn't a boy in school that didn't have a knife in his shoe that was made for it. That was the style. So,
Did the kids come up to the school? Did they all have these fancy cars in those days, or did they come by horseback? Or
almost everybody walked. There's a trail behind me that goes to the woods that goes all the way up to Highway 13, which was a horse and buggy trail. At one point, before I graduated out of the 8th grade, they had a man that drove a car, not a school bus, but a car, that took the kids that were too far away to the school. And it was Mr. Potter, as I recall.
oh, relate to Harold Potter down
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
That old group. So we're about a quarter of a mile away as a crow flies from Highway 13 or
Yep. Yeah.
something like that. So evidently the trail went past Sioux River, up over the hill, past the old Bodin property on the waterfront down that way, up to here, and then there was a little buggy trail that came into this area.
Right.
and then into the old town of McClelland, or later to be Washburn.
Originally, there weren't any town roads into here. Everything was by way of the railroad track.
Okay.
And the Houghton Station is just located here a couple, maybe 1,000 feet up the road.
To the south of us?
South, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Hey Bob, let me just hold that white card up again.
Like right here? Or do you want me close to
Facing me. Right. Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
I gotta go sit down.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds good.
Let me just get some
Take
more.
a pan, a nice shot of that.
Yeah.
Boy, thank you guys for putting a roof on that. Did you guys put it on, or?
I did that. I
Yeah.
tore the belfry off because it was leaking.
Yeah.
I tore the chimney out because it was decaying. And so I put a roof on it to save it. And I
Bless
boarded,
your heart.
I boarded the windows, but they need to be reboarded. And I wish it wasn't located there.
I wonder, like, if the Washburn Historical Society or somebody like that would take it upon themselves and move it to some place as a piece of history.
Now, Dick, what's this little building in front of us?
Nothing.
You know, what it used to be, though. You said it was
Well, the building itself used to be the Houghton woodshed
for the schoolhouse.
for the schoolhouse, yes.
Uh-huh.
Dick, I'm looking at this particular device right here. I bet you either this came out of your place down there, or it was a part of the process in which you got water for this school too.
That probably was the original pump that I pumped the water out.
Very interesting.
Well, that building belongs to Data currently.
Oh, nice.
And I said it should be developed, saved, and put into an apartment building or something.
Do something.
But to slide it into there,
Yeah.
or to slide it north, and but where it is, it would be incorrect to have a road going into it here
Yeah.
because of the privacy.
It's a real historic building.
Yes, yes, it is.
The land, did you guys cut the timber off this land when you were around? And how many acres do you guys have here, Dick? As
Well,
a family?
As a family,
Yeah.
close to 100. The original property was 32 acres on the lake, government lot.
Okay.
8 acres out in the water, that's why it's only 32.
Okay, I got you.
And Dick, who got that property in your family?
My father, and interestingly, he paid $2,500 for it as a young man, young married man. And during the Depression, he was never able to pay the principal, but he paid the interest. And I look back at the fact now, I own 10 acres of that 32.
Okay.
And he paid $2,500 for it all, and my taxes are $14,000 a year. Now, there's something wrong with that equation.
The equation's gone to the disadvantage of you. Who was your dad, Dick?
Elmer.
Elmer
There,
Bodin.
there were 3 brothers, Elmer, J.O. or Oscar, who was the county treasurer for years, and Adolph. And they had a cousin in Bayfield, which was Ivar, and his son is William G. In case you ever wonder how that arrangement worked.
Yeah, so they were cousins.
Yeah.
I know Eber. Yeah. A long time ago. Yeah. Your father an immigrant?
No, grandfather.
Grandfather was. What year did he come to USA?
In the turn of the century,
At the turn.
late 1800s. And they didn't come with the name Bodin, as far as I know. It was my opinion that they came from Boda, Sweden.
Okay.
And I have no way of knowing that for a fact, but
Where do they come here as then?
carpenters and fishermen,
Okay.
and settled in Ashland originally.
Century.
And
did their fishing with a Mackinac sailboat out of Schwamigan Bay, and they had a little fish camp on the outside of Long Island. There were a lot of fish camps out there. Used to be called Swedeville.
Oh.
Those are all gone now.
Did they work? Did they happen to know the old LaBelle brothers pretty well? And that gang, were they still at Long Island then?
Oh yeah, on the very point.
Yeah, they're on this point over here.
Yeah.
It's an interesting piece of property, boy. Boy, if these woods could talk, I bet you I could tell you a story, couldn't it?
Well, this house here was built in the late 1800s.
Uh-huh.
Belonged to the owner of the quarries. And was previously to that was the Houghton Post Office.
Okay, it was the Houghton Post Office at one time. Okay. And who? Do you remember who the owner of the quarry was?
Smith Babcock.
Babcock. Okay.
But I think Smith lived in this house, or possibly built it. It's
When
being
did you
held
say it was built?
in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And the living room is held up by hand-hewn logs that are so big.
Yeah.
Flattened down with a broad axe.
Sure. They were talented guys in those days. So the original building was at the square unit in the center there?
Yeah.
And the rest were add-ons?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like it could have been a post office in those days, Dick. And,
Well, it had a roof on it. It had a regular roof on it at one point.
oh, okay. So this is one of the original buildings on the site then?
Yep.
Some of the timber here has been long-standing. The White Pines are part of that old group, and
Oh, you came down the Bodin Road. That's a virgin forest in there.
that's still uncut
Huh?
timber.
Yeah.
Never been cut. That's almost unheard of in this
There are
breed.
hemlocks in there that Bobby, you and I feel like this to get our arms around.
Two men can't get them around them.
Yeah, one man can't get around.
White Pines getting up there. It's probably 150, 160 years old.
I used to climb that as a kid.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that review of the school here.
Well,
Is this block of sandstone here, is that an indicator of anything, or?
no.
I saw the cross in the woods too. Now, is that just for
Bobby John lived in my house for a while and his dog died.
oh, okay.
And I was going to take the cross down, but it's made out of welded iron.
Oh. If a person were to go down this road further, Dick, what's down there? Is that where the quarry's down that way?
Well, we'll take you down to the quarries.
All right. Sounds good. I'm especially interested in seeing the old boathouse on the lake. I don't know if you know it, but I have not. Yeah, I have. When I dream sometimes, I go back to a period of time where I'm with my dad for whatever reason, and every once in a while I wind up along the waterfront down here in an old boathouse.
Okay.
On this point now, I don't know if it was Adolph's place
I'll take
or it was
you
down here, and I want to see
take
this
you
because
down to it. Rosie's home, Ray.
I'm done. I just don't want to interrupt your recording.
Yeah. Whoa.
there'd be people who pay money for this tour.
John, there's a pair of geese in here mating. Why don't you get ahead of us?
Down, are they on the shore?
Right on the edge of the brush.
See right there.
Let's walk here right a little bit.
Oh yeah.
from the bank, she said, what are they gonna do now?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you zoom in on those?
Yeah.
When we get up here, maybe we'll stage it a little bit, John, but we'll have Dick just give us an overview of this whole quarry right here. When we get kind of like in one spot. How deep is this anyway?
50 feet deep. This is the old Smith Babcock quarry. One of the last few to operate.
Done about 1907, you mentioned?
Yeah, this has been abandoned for over 100 years.
50 feet deep.
And this is where the log rolling tournament was held in the 1926-28, about the same time as the Indian pageants up at Red Cliff. And where we're standing, there was a 3-meter diving platform with a high platform on top of that.
So what was the name of this quarry again?
Smith Babcock.
And when do you think that started? And when did they start quarrying and when did they quit?
Oh,
Talking about the 1800s, huh?
well, I'd say in the 1880s.
1880s, yeah.
Because quarrying lasted 30 years. And as I said earlier, at one time the quarrying lasted 30 years, the buildings last for over 100, so there's kind of a little irony there.
Yeah, it's 50 feet deep. John, if you could get a panorama of this ledge here. I think the water's edge is tremendously interesting here because that shows you the cut line
Yeah.
of that whole process.
Take 6 more steps to the right then.
Yeah. So describe what this is. This cut line.
Well,
That would be the edge of the quarry when they quit.
that's the beginning of that's the top of the stone. And at about waist deep, there's another ledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's sticks out about a foot.
Mm-hmm.
Then down about 6 more feet, it's another ledge. So it goes down in ledges all the way to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. You ever been to the bottom?
Yeah.
As a kid, maybe, eh?
Skin diver. Back in the early 60s,
Mm-hmm.
there's a buggy sunk over here.
Hmm.
And I remember turning the wheel on it.
Oh boy.
There's a little lapstrake boat sunk over here. And I have to admit that a number of us helped sink it.
Mm-hmm.
see how many stones it would take to sink it. And it sank.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Sounds like something a young kid would do. Dick, when they had the davit here, and they pull a piece and they pull it up, and then do they have like a trolley cart or something, and they run it from like here to the railroad that ran by? Where did the railroad run in those days?
On the top up there, you can see the grade.
Mm-hmm.
See how flat it is?
Yeah.
So right up there at the top of the bank
Yeah.
was the railroad.
That's right.
For the record, there's a good possibility that railroad was the Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Omaha.
A spur to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because that was narrow gauge.
okay, and that would be the spur that ran out to her. They'd load the carts there, and off they'd go, and then they're reloaded onto the larger.
Presumably. I got to realize that earlier, before the railroad, that the apprentice quarries, which are farther south, they were all shipped out by ship
Yeah.
off the old Houghton dock.
The Houghton dock was about how far from this quarry?
It was in front of the Smith. It was in front of the apprentice quarries,
Okay.
which was even a bigger quarry than this.
Okay.
One of the quarries were the monolith out of Washburn.
Okay.
That was supposed to go to the World's Fair.
Okay, good.
Came out of. Never came out.
It's still there.
No, it was cut up for building stones eventually.
Okay.
So
All right.
The Houghton dock was a pretty long dock.
Oh, a huge dock.
Do you have any photos of that by any chance?
I don't know. You can see it underwater now.
Yeah.
You go right over the top of it.
I've got one photo I've noticed at Bass Island where they had those, the big, they weren't the steamers, they were the big frigates or whatever they used in those days with her there. And it showed how they'd pick them up. They had the tripods there and they'd swing them over and load them on their boats.
Yeah.
But in Bayfield, they brought them from either went east from there, or they brought them to Bayfield to the North Dock, which isn't there in Bayfield. They had a narrow gauge out there, and then they'd take them from there to where the booth building is there,
Yeah.
and they'd load them right there.
Yeah.
The old days.
So Dick, when they dug the stone out of here, then could you describe the process?
Well,
Uh,
to the best of my knowledge, because that's before my time.
right, I know it,
But right on this corner here, there was a great big scaffold. Guy wires going everywhere to hold it. Almost as high as that pine, but obviously not quite that high. And wires going across. And so, like Bobby says, it was done by turning the scaffolding, picking up the stone, steam engines to raise it, and put it on a cart and ship it off.
so then
That's
it would,
simplistic, but
but it would go out onto a dock sticking into the lake.
from
Right.
this quarry, probably not.
No?
From the Prentice quarries, absolutely true.
But from here it would just go right onto
Go onto a railroad.
onto the railroad.
Because initially, when these quarries were started, there wasn't a railroad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that would indicate the railroad coming to Bayfield in 1883, and it was in Ashland in 1872, so somewhere in between. We've narrowed it down.
Well, if it went to Bayfield, it had to go right by the quarries.
Yeah.
And that was in 83.
There you
That's
go.
when it arrived there.
Yeah.
So it might have been 1881, 2 or 3, somewhere. And I don't know how long it took them to get from here to Bayfield.
I would think. Well, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Now this quarry has got 20-some thousand gallons of water going into it every day through this artesian well. Well,
And then it drains into the lake.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And how deep is it?
50 feet.
50 feet deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some chunks over there, John. We can probably pan those in
Yeah.
a little bit.
Go over here and do that.
This is really an interesting little story here.
Wild strawberries. The Indians call them heartberries. And it's 30 days from bloom to berry.
Okay.
So what are we at, May 7th?
Yeah. June 7th, we'll pick them up.
June 7, you'll have some, all things being normal. Of course, with the snow in the forecast, I don't think that's quite normal.
That's a really interesting vision. You can see the sandstone still underneath here, Dick.
Well,
I don't know if that's a chunk or not, but there's got to be stone underneath where we're walking all the way down.
I'll show you that. This won't put you there.
All right. Dick, you know how they cut this stuff in the old days? I know they drilled it and they used wedges to break it, or they use slicing rigs, or what?
We have a machine that sliced eventually.
Yeah.
But I'll show you some other evidence of how it was done.
Come on, gaffer. Got the gaffer coming behind us now.
We're going to get a lot of wind noise on the mic from here.
Yeah, well,
We'll just get the shots. Don't worry about the sound.
boy, I don't think your kids know how lucky they were to grow up in a place like this, Dick. Or you guys either, for that matter.
see the brownstone sticks right out of the ground. See, they knew what they were doing because they could go along the lakefront and see the brownstone. And you see the top of it. And everything above that is called the overburden, which was the scrap and had to be all hauled away so they got the good stone.
It was right on the surface.
And that's why you want to have the quarry close to the lake, because it was less overburden. If you went back inland with a long distance, you would have to go down and down and down to find good stone. Now, do you see these black stones here? Those are not native. Those came with the glaciers.
Canadian Shield up there. Yeah, very interesting. I'm not coming down there.
Pick one out if I can find one, because they're log marked. That's where they belong on a building.
What are you looking for?
A mark on the end of the rocks that show where it belongs on a building, because these have all been previously used in building that. They have a number on them. Not all of them, of course, but some of them.
So these stones all came out of that quarry.
Unknown.
Unknown, yeah. They were just found around on the land here.
And some of them have been hauled in from other areas.
You can see the saw cuts here.
Yeah, that's kind of an indicator of what. They used to have those steam-powered saws in those days. I've seen a photo of them.
That's a modern cut. Somebody was trying to make a,
Okay.
because you could see some Tupek, the stonesmith, has been doing work.
Oh, okay, I see.
Well, I can get out of it too.
Just a quick review. We have some boats in front of us here that are pretty modern, but as a precursor to where we're going to go with the rest of this conversation a little bit later, is the Bodin family has been in the fishing end of it for forever, and this is just a portion of their whole operations, which including harvesting of smelt in the past, I guess.
These are strictly smelt fishing boats. They only use them 2-3 weeks out of the year. The rest of the time they're pulled up and stored.
Did you guys fish smelt this year?
Yeah.
How
It's improving.
yeah. Remember the days when Lori used to run the Corium and
Yes.
Kenny Johnson and that bunch, and Butchie Cameron was on there? I can still see them.
There were smelt by the gazillions.
I wonder, what did Lori say? They had like 70 ton one year or some darn thing
I'm
like
sure.
that.
Yeah. And now our lake trout are coming back. They're foraging on the smelt,
Yeah.
and they're planting salmon, and they're horrendously foraging on the smelt.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a paradox, in my opinion. We spent millions of dollars to restore the lake trout, and then we introduce salmon to eat the lake trout's feed. a little confusing there.
There is no justice in this world, is there? Or-
And someone said, well, the lake trout feed on the bottom with plankton, and I mean those little crustaceans.
Sure.
Well, I've never caught a lake trout that didn't have its stomach full of smelt.
Yeah, very seldom. Very seldom. The whitefish are even eating smelt now. I don't know what's going on. It's
Yeah,
completely
whitefish.
bizarre world to me. It's really interesting. I've dressed tons and tons when I worked at Morris, but then tons of them.
Yeah.
And all you'd ever see of them was the caddis flies and the little mysis, those
Yeah.
little lake shrimp.
Well, then you're talking about whitefish?
Yeah, whitefish.
And then that little stick that looks like a stick and it's got a little worm inside of it.
Yeah, that's the caddis fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but that's all we ever saw. Now they're dressing whitefish. They become carnivorous.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
And it doesn't make I don't know what's going on.
All right.
It is.
Well, you fellas want.
When your dad was fishing, what was the name of the boats he had at that point in time?
The Marvell was the first one. And had I been a girl, I would have been named Marvell. Thank the good Lord. I was a boy, and they named the boat Marvell.
Okay.
And then the Clipper.
Remember the Clipper?
That was built by Mulkey.
Frank my
Mulkey.
grandfather.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the boat was sold later to Richard Bodin. He just wanted to do some fishing as a hobby kind of thing.
He's an older gentleman in that period of time.
Oh yes, yeah. And then the boat went up the North Shore somewhere, and it's probably gone now.
Lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Is this where he fished out of pretty much every day then?
My father did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was the dock longer in those days, or is the
Yes,
water
yes.
shorter?
The dock was longer. The hoists were out on the end, and that all came down when the Edmund Fitzgerald sank.
Oh, in that period of time. Oh, okay. That'd
So,
be fun.
so now we maintain this dock for the sports fishermen and for our guests here at the resort.
This is the old ice shed, I take it?
Yes, yes.
Did you guys process the ice out of the lake, or?
All came out of the lake, and that held enough ice to hold us through the season.
Sawdust and
It was all insulated with sawdust.
is the old grinders and stuff still in there and stuff? Do you still have all that stuff, or is that down in Bayfield now?
The ice crushers were in the fish house that we pulled down. And actually, it's in the junkyard up at the schoolhouse.
Oh, really? It is, eh? That's good stuff. You got to get that out.
Yeah, right.
It'd be like Dean Hover, so that's good stuff. Nice. Oh, I don't know. Couldn't dumb me up long enough to get by you.
My son, Bill, my youngest son, lives in Burnsville right now. And he ran the cooperage for us.
I remember when he was a Cooper.
And he was burglar and burly, bearded, no, burly, black, bearded, Bill Bodin. Barrel builder.
Barrel builder, he was there. I can't remember when he was down there doing that.
That was kind of a lot.
Yeah. That was a nice piece of interpretive history for people too. At the time, you know, when I was quite a bit younger then. That period of time, none of that stuff made a bit of difference to me. And all of a sudden, when I got to be 50 years old, I start to really get into it. And that's how I got involved with the BHA and stuff. It was just a tremendously interesting part of the history. At that point in time, I was the biggest dope I had on that. So.
Okay, Dick.
I'll get out.
Huh?
I'll get out.
Okay.
And I think we have a better view of it from over here. Maybe through there.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Wow, what an impressive. So Dick, you say there's about 10 or 12 of these old smaller quarries in the area.
Yes, yes. Actually, on our property, we have 4. And this is one of the larger ones.
Does this have a name, Dick?
If it does, it escapes me. But what this quarry is important for is the monolith was cut out of it on this side that was supposed to go to the Chicago World's Fair. And financial or technical reasons, it was never shipped. And eventually it was cut up for building stones. But this is a huge quarry. It has no visible outlet.
This is about a half mile from the Smith Quarry there, and you see there are four of these pits on your property.
Yes, yeah.
How deep is this one? Would you guess?
I have no idea. They all must have the same depth,
Yeah.
because you realize once you get down so far, the effort to keep the water out had to be horrendous.
Yeah. You had to pump it constantly.
Oh yes, constantly, yes, absolutely.
I see some of the old fencing here. Is that the old 1930s type of fencing
That's
that they
the-
used?
Original stuff.
The original, you're probably from the turn of the century there, John, that old fencing. What a wonderful story within a story. Yeah.
This property belongs to Dr. Wishart.
Okay.
That's from Eau Claire.
Okay. Very nice.
When I used to do the brownstone tours for the Washburn,
Uh-huh.
it was usually, well, it's the summertime, homecoming, Washburn.
Sure.
I'd have to talk to them and say, do you mind if we poke our nose down here?
Yeah.
Then people wanted to kind of walk down. I said, no, come on, it's private.
The tour is here, so people are really exploratory by nature.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that right? I want to get into that fishing pretty good. I wonder how, you know, I know that they were big time fishermen down here, but I never did get the story on really how big, that, you know, the commercial ones were, and I know they got to the business and the shipping. We'll get there. Bring up names like Wally Loco and, you know, if you can remember them. I'll be asking you who are some of the guys that work. I'm hoping to remember everything I'm telling you now, but tell me who's some of the guys who work for the operations.
Yeah, yeah. John, what you just filmed over there was the old Houghton Depot. And it serviced the little village of Houghton Station. And it was from there on a platform next to it that the Bodins shipped out their fish. And the train came by every day. It had a little passenger coach on it, but it was never. I don't think there was ever more than one coach for passengers. I doubt there was more than one or two coaches for fish or cars, but it did have a lot of logs. and that sort of thing.
Where'd you guys ship your fish in those days?
Mostly to the Chicago markets.
So, okay. Right down, she went on those cooler cars in those days?
Railway Express. They iced the cars down so that they stayed cool. And it worked.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Were they the booth cars, or were they just random cars that you guys?
Oh, it was random cars.
Yeah. Remember when Booth was shipping a lot? Maybe not so much in that period of time when you were a kid, but before that, that was the big way. That and steamboats.
All right.
So when do you think this depot quit being used?
When they tore the railroad, when they quit using the railroad. So that had to have been how many years ago, Bobby?
Well, they pulled the line in the 70s there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, we never used it even then because by that time our fisheries was developed in Ashland.
Yeah, you'd moved out of this area a little bit in downtown there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd haul by truck in those days, I would guess, to Ashland and
Yes.
pick up your fish on the dock. And
We would take our fish to Ashland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go up to Elmore's or any sell in Bayfield at all, or do you just always go south?
Always south.
Yeah. You know, that Raspberry Bay and the Hokinson stuff, they always went up through Ellers, those guys, so they didn't bring their stuff into town either.
No.
They must have had. We'll get into that a little bit, but I wonder if there's any rows that your parents ever had with Elmore or any of those guys, and about there was.
Never any problems.
Yeah.
And we bought lots and lots of fish from Ellers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the cornucopia fish.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought a lot of the Otto-Alkene fish.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much of the Booth fish.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
we eventually bought the Otto-Alkene company, and we eventually bought the Booth company out of Bayfield.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting circumstances for that, well, we can get into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is really cool.
It'd be better if we were on the other side with the light the other way.
Yeah, but it'll work. So what is this quarry, Dick?
All right, this is the very last quarry to have operated in the quarrying days of Bayfield County. And all the equipment for the other quarries was gathered and set alongside of here. And I remember as kids playing on the little pony steam engines. We'd get up on the top of them, pretend they were horses. And the equipment scattered everywhere around this quarry when it was closed. And back about 1938, the train track, of course, ran alongside here. And many cars, empty cars came, and they loaded all the steel and iron from the quarry. And it was all shipped to Japan.
Really?
And it was all shot back at us. What, 1941?
Oh boy.
That's an ironic story.
Now, if we were to walk on the other side, I can show you all the abandoned stone. You want to do that?
Sure. If you're up for it.
Well,
We're game.
we'll just take our time.
You lead the way though, Dick. One. Yeah, see the stuff you're telling us.
What were you saying, Dick, about where we're walking?
The narrow gauge railway.
So we're actually right on the railway bed.
A tie, a tie, a tie,
Oh, there's the ties, John.
a tie.
These are the ties, the moss-colored.
Here's the railway bed right here, John.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. That's amazing. Right next to the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
So
Stands
they-
the reason they must have had the davit here, and they'd boom out and pick up the piece, and then load it onto the narrow gauged car that was here, and off it would go to the big train that was probably across the street there someplace.
So the narrow gauge was just the quarry railroad.
Just a feeder. Now we talk about overburden.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the overburden from this quarry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is this cool?
Actually, what that is currently are great fox dens.
What?
Great dens for fox.
Oh. Yeah, this mound here tells the story within itself, John.
Yep.
Oh yeah, fox den there.
Right here.
Mm-hmm. Dick, was all these rocks then shoved up here in a pile? This is all the extra rock then, eh?
It was all the junk, all the overburden. Stuff that wasn't
Usable.
usable. This is where I got most of my stone from my fireplace.
Oh.
Chunks like that. Nice big chunk there. There was a pile of great big pile of slabs here.
Oh yeah.
What'd you say?
There was a pile of slabs already cut.
Is this on your property, Dick?
Currently it's Bayfield.
Oh, okay.
I think it's up there.
the old days. Looks like
Well,
Yeah, these
my
were
point being, without walking forever and ever, there's all kinds of this is laying around from the abandoned quarry. And being the last quarry to operate, there was a lot of unsold stone.
okay.
yeah.
It looks like they had a
Did this quarry have a name? I can't remember if you told me.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's on the Smith property, so it had to have been a Smith Babcock quarry.
well, these metal artifacts here are probably that time period.
Oh yeah. See the steam hoses?
Yeah. They were left. They were.
You gotta realize that they went through here with a fine-tooth comb to pick up all the steel and iron,
You said those were steam hoses?
probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Here's a John. These are some interesting
this
pieces right there.
All of this is getting buried now. Nature's reclaiming it. Good shots.
And
Dick, am I imagining things, or would that rock right, that piece of sandstone been sliced right there, or is that
Frost, probably frost.
frost? Do you think on there? I'm not an expert, as you well know, when it comes to this type of operation.
But these are good usable chunks here.
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the market value of them?
Actually, quite valuable. But to get them out of the woods and so forth,
Yeah.
quite difficult.
Yeah, we'd need to have a front end loader of some type in here.
So we're just close to this quarry we just saw is over here.
John, there's some of that old steam hose right there that would give people a good idea of how that stuff was constructed. Looks like it's ribbed. Looks like it's part dinosaur and part rubber. What a wonderful, interesting spot this is in here. We had to get the Halverson boys, or Robert Halverson, he'd be in hog heaven.
Well, I think I sure the way out.
Yeah. That looks like old stovepipe.
Probably from the steam engine.
Yeah. Stovepipe possibly from the steam engines in the old days, John.
Yeah.
If you went through here with a metal detector.
Look at here.
Yeah.
This is a brake. That's a brake for brake handle, I would guess, wouldn't you, Dick?
Let's see. It looks like a splitting bar to me.
It could be maybe a splitting bar from the operation.
If you were to go through here with a metal detector, you'd find all sorts of artifacts.
I'll clean that up right there. That's a cowling for a drive shaft. Right?
Yeah, I wonder what that is.
Looks like a relief valve. Doesn't it?
It fits in there.
Well, not really.
Who knows?
Yeah.
No, but I say if you were to go through here with a metal detector, you'd find tons of iron.
You want to be careful this and get out of it and make it a National Historic Site or something, which it really could be.
Probably something worse than that.
I think we have a burial site. Really? Pauper's grave here, you think?
I think it's pre-Native Indian.
Oh, really? Don't even go there.
See what I mean? By iron.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
the stuff here? There's some more holes.
I know it. And there's another piece of something or other.
Well, I can actually,
That's a good slab pile right here.
John, you and I
This
can
looks like a
actually say
shovel.
we saw a scene,
What do you think this
old
is?
steam pipe.
Some kind of a... That's
Here's a
just a...
fiddlehead fern. Did you know that, Dick? You teach me something, and I'll teach you something.
I need that for my dock project.
Yeah, this is a fiddlehead fern.
I got all kinds of fiddlehead fern. This is where I got my mantelpieces. Come in here.
Nice.
Just laying here.
And it goes all the way over. See the trees growing up on the top of them there, John.
Huh?
See the trees going up on
Oh, yeah.
them?
Yeah.
They've been there that long.
Been here 100 years, boys.
Yeah.
She's a sandstone quarry graveyard. Isn't it interesting how Mother Nature reclaims?
Okay, Dick.
Well, this is a picture of my dad, Elmer, taken in front of the Bodin home in the background, which at one time was the post office for the village of Houghton. And this is the daughter Bonnie. This is my son Jeff, who currently is operating and managing the fisheries in Bayfield.
Mm-hmm.
This is Wendy, Nell Bodin's daughter, and Deborah, Nell Bodin's daughter.
Mm-hmm. And behind is your father?
This is my father, Elmer.
Elmer.
Yep, one of the three Bodin boys that settled in the Houghton area. Along the others were Oscar and Adolf.
Uh-huh. About when did they settle?
The father of my father's father, Nels Bodin, moved from Ashland about the turn of the century and built their homestead in the town of Bayview, just below the historic marker for Madeline Island, if that means anything to anybody. Maybe we can go down there and take a picture of the boathouses. They're still there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do that.
Well, there's another photo here, and I wonder if you could, if that needs to be registered as to who those ladies and gentlemen may be.
Whoa, okay. No, but I don't think you can pick that up.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. You just hold it in the light.
Well, that's a family picture of my mother, Hazel Bodin. This would have to be after my father passed away. And this is Robert John Bodin, Nell Bodin's son. And we have Beta Bodin. We have my son Thomas, who lives in Waukesha, and Jeff is growing up to operate the fisheries, and my daughter Bonnie, and her cousin Deborah, and Wendy, Nell Bodin's daughters. And you'll see a picture in the background of my father, Elmer Bodin.
And that's your mother there in the middle?
That's my mother.
Yeah. What was her name?
Hazel.
Hazel. Okay.
And this is taken inside the family home that is in the town of Bayview.
Fun.
Thank
you. You had me stumped. I didn't know who these people were.
We play Stump the Genius here, so.
Yeah, but I think I was right.
I think you got them all. Who might have called? I'm gonna ask him a little bit about the boat place, if there's a boat place there, I think there was.
So this is the old Bodin boathouse.
On the Adolph.
Yeah. Right.
Ventured to guess that this was one of the storage, I just want to look around a little bit before I talk too much, John. This boathouse could be a National Historic Site too. Look at the stuff that's in here. This reminds me of my Rocky Island operation.
I hope I can. I don't think there's even enough light to shoot in, but maybe. Yeah.
With all the dock building equipment and the chains.
So this is we're in the inside of the old
Yeah.
Bodin boathouse.
The Adolph Bodin boathouse. Here's all the dock building equipment and tools of the trade from the old fishing days. Here's a set of winches and stuff like that for hauling the boats up and lifting. Probably the skiffs out of the waters. The old oars are here. The pike poles, the cant hooks and peavies are in there. The old pails that they used to dip out of the lake, but they're still here.
Yeah.
Here's a bucket of old net leads. I'm sure that they sat here and cut the leads off that old net, and they're ready to be melted the next time around.
That's what those were. Okay.
Yeah, those are old net leads. Some of the old dock axes. I remember coming in here as a little kid with my dad. It's been many, many years. Just as I remember that door
So
there.
would they fix nets in here too? About it?
They would do everything like that, yeah.
Everything.
Here you see, this is some remnants of the old fish boxes that were, in the 1940s and 50s. They don't use these anymore at all in the trade. They're all plastic.
Yep.
Yeah. Storage bins here. An air compressor from an old Cullenberg engine right there. That must have been old Adolph's desk where he did his bookwork in the corner.
Yeah.
The linen net and the linen thread company is the poster and the calendar is dated December 1959.
Oh boy.
On the top shelf are some of the more modern type of plastic carriers that they put fish in this day and age. Of particular interest in this shop right here is the old whetstone. And many young person has sat and whirled around the other end, and probably these guys may have had an electric motor that went with it. But you'll see the grindstone there, and probably a more coarse grained one there. In the old days, nets would have been stacked here.
Bodin, Bud, Viola, Glenn, and Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that? Those barrels, it says pure. What would have been
30
in there?
gallons outboard marine, probably oil for the outboards a little bit later on.
Oh yeah, right.
A barrel stove here. Here's another little electric motor. They probably hooked this up, and maybe this would actually spin the whetstones down there, type of thing.
Yeah.
if you'll notice that sign on the wall there, it's also a calendar. I remember those used to be posted in the outhouses in the islands there. If you're so darn smart, how come why ain't you rich?
It says Bayfield Fish and Oyster Company.
Yeah, Bayfield Fish and Oyster Company.
Now who's
That I'm not familiar with. We'll have to ask Dick about that.
has a Chicago, Illinois address.
Yeah, well, they used to sell a lot of fish, the Bodins did, into Illinois. And all those fish used to go to Fulton Street markets down there. On the ceiling joist right here, you'll see some of the old plastic net corks
Yeah.
that were originally, they started out with cedar that were hand hewn in the area, and then they went to the plastic and then aluminums and then other stuff.
Treasure trove in here.
Up against that wall there, John, you can see
Yeah.
the old ice tongs.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they probably pulled the ice out of the lake with, and they put them on the front end of a tractor and they pick them up and store them in the ice houses, and I'm pretty sure that they're here. I wouldn't be surprised if we went upstairs. There's nets up there yet. Here's the old scale back here, John. I don't know if you can get a photo of that or not. There's the old weight scale that they used years ago. Fairbanks Morris is the company that built it.
Yeah.
Many, many, many tons of fish have been weighed on that bad boy.
Amazing.
Pails, pails, pails. The old fish house, many, many, many fish have been weighed in this building. Beautiful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, you're still a fisherman at heart, Bobby.
Oh, I really, it's a part of your life, you know.
Okay.
You are what you are. That building right there is one of their old flying sheds where they stored their pond nets in the wintertime.
Let me get on this side of the house.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding.
And that building, Dick.
Well, that is the original fisheries for Adolf Bodin, and he had a boat called, at one time, I'm Alone, and the Beverly
Ann, another multi boat.
Right. And you probably noticed the herring picking shack out on the end of the dock. Very typical of a fisheries. And off to the right, down the beach, you saw another fish operation where there's just one building remaining.
Yeah.
And that's the J.O. Bodine Fish Company. That was John Oscar, a brother of my father, Elmer. He was the county treasurer for years and years, and along with his sons, Theodore and Claire William, also known as Bud Bodine, they operated a ponnet fishery out of there.
Ted Bodine, gotcha. Now it's all connected.
Yes.
Gotcha now. On the right here, is that the old pond net shed from the old days? And you know, there's a green building right on the right here.
I don't know.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the theory behind the boathouse out there. Tell us. I pretty much know what it was used for, Dick, but it's similar to what Ever and Bud had at Madeline over there. Tell us a little bit how that would work, lifting boats out of there.
Well, on the very end there, of course, is a boathouse with a hoist. And the boat is hoisted up in there because, look out here, there's no protection, there's no harbor. You get a northeast wind and that boat has got to be high and dry. And so they did that. That was mandatory, that they be up out of the water every night. And the fish were brought in from the herring sheds into the bigger building where they were possibly processed, such as salted, dressed and salted, or boxed, waiting for a mink rancher to come to pick up the herring for mink feed. The typical use, very typical use.
What year do you think this beach structure is here?
Oh, that thing has been there all my life. I'm 86 years old.
So it's got you by a few days anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was telling John, I said, that is heirloom history right there. Very few places on Lake Superior will be identified such as this in the long run.
That's why the Park Service preserved the fish camp at Sand Bay.
Yeah.
Hokinson's. These have been preserved just by residential usage.
Sure, by the Bodin family.
Yeah. And if they should be destroyed by weather, burn, collapse, they can never be put back.
Yeah. And because of the laws, is that what it is? Or
Yeah. You would have to be 75 to 200 feet away from the water to build something today.
Sure.
A private home is 75 feet. Anything commercial has to be 200 feet.
Do you think, Dick, it's the intentions of the Bodin family to keep the story alive here by keeping these in as good a shape as possible, or do you think they're just gonna go the route of Mother Time?
Depends upon their ability financially. We tore our fish house down because we thought it was too expensive to maintain. I thought that in retrospect, years later, that was a mistake. But these people have kept this up. And the J.O. Bodin fish house over there is owned by the Radke children. And they're trying to maintain it as just holding it.
Yeah,
Much like I'm trying to hold the old Houghton School. You know, I can't renovate it, but I can hold it.
Yeah.
So
what we're doing at Rocky Island too. Everything out there is the way it was in the 30s.
yeah,
Same thing. Saving that for the park, though. The park has a history of, allowing those cultural and historical landscapes within the islands to diminish to the point of no return. Whereas they were, it was really great that they did Hokinson's, but you'll see the other island fish camps all the way from Presqu'île to Stockton to, in South Twin and Rocky and Sand Island are all gone.
well, it's like Long Island, where Sweetville was. That's been turned back to nature. You can't find a shingle or a nail or anything. Well, okay, so that's a different usage of the land. I guess I can't deny that it's probably okay, but it's pretty tough if you own it. And I hate to see it go back to there after so many years of generations of history.
Yeah.
But,
the history's lost then, at least visually.
But time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
can't stop that.
Yeah.
That's right.
The land is reclaimed.
So
Well, beautiful
Okay.
piece of history here. Thanks.